Welcome to this yet another episode of the Rumble. Today I have a man who's I would consider him seriously lucky. He lives in Australia but has the opportunity to travel back to India. I say back because he is from Chennai or from India. So he gets the opportunity to travel back and forth, which is something that everybody would love to do. Live somewhere nice and then get to travel. So welcome to the show, Daniel. Or should I call you Vinod?
Call me Vinod.
Call you Vinod. All right. So welcome to the show, Vinod. So I know that you are involved in a whole bunch of activities, not just one, and that your trips to India involve different fields, like you've got conservation, you've got restoration of public, memorials, monuments. You're also involved with treatment of the eye. And what's the third critical thing that you do?
Oh, well, I travel a bit.
Travel a bit, yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. You're a lucky guy. So tell me, how did this happen? You live in Australia and you're getting the opportunity to do a lot of interesting stuff here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me thank you, Madhav, for inviting me to this Rumble. I think it's fantastic being here.
Thank you.
And I feel very, very lucky. And I wouldn't trade my place for anyone or anything at this stage. I'm from Chennai, and I think over the last 25 years, it's been a bit of different opportunities that have taken me, globally around the world, and it's great to be back here again. I studied here in Chennai at the Madras Christian College High School.
Oh.
And then after that, I was quite lucky to get a place in the Indian Institute of Technology. So I did chemical engineering there.
That's IIT Madras?
IIT Delhi.
Delhi, oh,
So
okay.
I was one of the rebels, and I wanted to leave somewhere else away from home and study.
Yeah,
so that
that's
was
a
one of
great
the
way to study.
one of the key drivers. But looking back, I think what I learned being away from home in a city. In a city where they speak a language which I didn't know, was fantastic. And I think that kind of set the foundation for my international journey.
Yeah, I was recently reading some article by somebody who was listing a whole bunch of Indian people who moved out from IITs and who have been especially successful. And they all attribute this one thing to their career success, that we studied somewhere where we are not born. We moved somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity, to stay in a dormitory. And I think at that stage, that was one of the requirements, that everyone stays in a dormitory. So you understand.
Okay, all you guys watching the show and you don't want your son to go to some next state, to next city, just listen to this. Let them go wherever they want to go. I think you learn a lot.
Yeah, and then after that, I got, as usual, everyone IIT gets and fights for a scholarship to go to the US. This was in the mid-80s, and I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to go to the US. I did my master's there, but then came the next big break. With my chemical background, I was applying for a whole range of jobs after my master's, and I was very fortunate to get a job at the Paul Getty Museum. It's one of the really interesting museums, but more importantly,
Who was Paul Getty? Just a rich billionaire?
Was a rich oil billionaire who left a bit of money in a trust.
A fair bit.
Yeah, a fair bit. I understand he left about $1 billion, but that's grown to about 5 or 6 billion now.
Okay.
And the way the whole museum and the trust runs is where they use part of that endowment for its operations. And they probably have one of the best conservation research facilities in the world. And I was quite fortunate to get a job there. So that was a bit of a career start. I worked there for 4.5 years. And at that stage, one of the colleagues I was working with on a project, he had just come back from Sydney, Australia. So he used to be working at the Australian Museum. And when he came back, he said that there is an opportunity to work at the Australian Museum in Sydney, and he asked me whether I would be keen, and I said I would be quite keen, and that's how my journey to Sydney happened.
Okay.
And part of my interest actually to go to Australia was I had a strong interest to work in this part of the world.
Okay.
And I think coming to Australia gave me that opportunity. Then in terms of my work at the museum, initially I worked as a conservation scientist, but then eventually very much as part of the management team. But one of the great opportunities I had was to work across the region quite extensively. So I've been to most Pacific island countries, states and countries.
Okay.
And I've also worked quite extensively with Southeast Asia, quite a bit with India.
So your chemical background, did you have to use a lot of expertise in that domain in the areas you're working now?
See, in the early part, yes, because we did quite a number of projects in terms of how to better preserve collections. And usually chemical degradation becomes an important element when it comes to preservation. And to give you an example, one of the early projects I worked on was we had a whole range of old collections which were full of insects.
Collections of what?
Collections of wooden artifacts, textiles, etc.
They're all falling apart.
Falling apart. Now, this was a problem that was faced by many museums globally, and they were using quite a number of harmful chemicals to treat them. Now, these chemicals would have some kind of a reaction with the paints and the other layers. Not only that, they're also harmful for the humans who are using it. So part of the early research at that stage was, can we do something else that is non-toxic to kill insects?
That's brilliant. So look at that. You go into chemical engineering and you end up preserving bones. I mean, it's a great opportunity. When you come back, you find out what was it that he did in Australia with his chemical background.